Hi everyone, it's Julie from Sprouts and Stems here. Today's video is going to be a string of pearls propagation video. Yeah, my string of pearls is looking a little sad and a little bare, like thin on top, so I figured it'd be a good opportunity to propagate it and add a little more fullness to the top of it. Yeah, so that's what today will be, and before we get started, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I am now at 900 something subscribers, so I'm in the countdown to 1,000, and I really appreciate everyone who has subscribed so far. Please also check out the link in the description for my monthly membership club. So that's where I post exclusive content. And let's see, what else? And plant giveaways once a month, and also discounts to my shop. Okay, now let's get started propagating this guy. Okay, so I've got my string of pearls plant here, and it's just balancing on top of this candle, just so you could see the pearls hanging down a bit more. And yeah, I've kind of been neglecting this guy, to be honest. It's one of those things where it's thriving and thriving and thriving, and then all of a sudden you look at it and it's like, ugh, I guess it's not thriving so much anymore. I better start paying a little bit more attention to it. So yeah, I mean, some of the strings are just like super leggy. I mean, that part doesn't bother me so much, but it's definitely like some of the strings at the top have died and it's just looking a bit bare. It's just not looking as beautiful as it used to. So I figured it's a good opportunity, like I said, to cut off some of these strands and propagate it. Now you can propagate this in water or potting mix. Today I'm doing potting mix because I want to just stick the cuttings like right back in the pot and just immediately make a more full plant, or at least the illusion of a full plant. And yeah, so you can do this in water if you want, but today I'll be showing you in potting mix, and you can also just do this like in a little separate pot if you want to make a whole other new little plant. But yeah, my goal today for this is to just enhance the look of this plant, just focus on this guy right here. So whenever I do a propagation video, I like to do a little refresher of the nodes. I will keep it relatively short today, but the nodes are where, oh my gosh, guys, seriously. Look at this. This is bad. Okay, focus. The nodes are where new growth comes from. So that's roots, that's new leaves, or in the case of a string of pearls, where the pearls come from. So each one of these little places along the stem where a pearl is growing from is a node. So because nodes are where new growth comes from and we want to grow roots on our cutting, you want to make sure you take some sections that have some nice healthy nodes. So for example, like this that just fell off, this is like, I would not use this to propagate. Like the pearls are all deflated and mushy, and this is just not a healthy strand. So yeah, you just want to make sure you pick out some nice healthy strands. So here's an example of one piece I'm going to take. So the whole like top of it is dead, but it managed to sprout some really nice healthy growth at the end. So I'm going to pull this whole thing out. I'm going to cut off the dead part and just leave the healthy part, and I'm going to collect my cuttings just in here. So I'll take a few more, collect them in here, and then we will start. And there's actually like quite a number of strands that are dead on top. So that actually will be, it's actually going to be come in handy, so I don't have to take any like super healthy strands off. You know what I mean? I can get some use out of the strands that are like half dead. For now, I took these and I managed to take a lot of them from cuttings that were like half gone anyway, which is cool. First method is literally just like taking the strands and sticking them in the soil. So what you want to do, I'm going to cut off a little bit of this extra like tail. So the top of the stem, meaning the top of the string, meaning the part that is like closest to the plant, like you can see this was the bottom because it was still growing. So take a few, just pluck a few of the pearls off the top. I'd say like 3 or 4. And this is going to expose the nodes, and removing the leaves or removing the pearls will trigger the nodes to start pushing out new growth. You want to do a couple in this case and not just like one pearl, because the strings are so small and dainty and delicate. Like exposing, the more nodes you have, the better chance you have at getting a good root system. So I have plucked off some pearls. This whole section up here is like nodes. You can't see it now, but you can kind of see it a little bit. You can kind of see like where the pearls were. And then you just want to make a hole where you want to put it in the pot. I recommend either a toothpick or a chopstick. I'm just gonna stick it in. There. So here is the one I just put in, and you can see it's down into the soil, sticking out. And as you can see, it automatically gives an illusion of a more full plant. Now, I mean, granted, it was literally one string, but like you can imagine if you took like 10 strings or something and did that all around, that's like an immediate fix, basically. And then over time, the roots will start to sprout and it'll start growing just like a normal string. All right, so I'm going to do a few more. And remember, the same exact thing that I'm doing here, you can do in water. I also wanted to give you just a brief example of another way to encourage fullness on your plant. So not just like taking a cutting and sticking it back in, but you can prune. This is a pretty useless little piece right here. There's just no pearls on it at all. I can snip right above. So you hold it up to the ceiling, you pick out a nice healthy pearl, snip above it. And now that will encourage new growth here. So that'll encourage branching, and then hopefully it'll create, or hopefully it'll push out more healthy growth from this node instead of this, like, wherever it was. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm sorry. Instead of like a bare string like this, hopefully that'll kind of reset this strand and get it to push out more healthy growth. All right, the next method that I will be doing in this video is, so I have a few like shorter pieces, shorter bits that looked pretty healthy, but probably wouldn't be great for like sticking in and then hanging down just because they're so short. But what you can do is take a piece and literally just kind of like nestle it down on top of the soil. Literally just like that. Make sure the nodes, so that's where the leaves are, make sure they're like in contact with the soil, and eventually those will sprout roots too. Now, in my experience, this method takes longer for roots to sprout as opposed to just like sticking the cuttings in and then having like the ends grow roots. But this is definitely another method. You can use bobby pins or paper clips if you want to like secure these down a little bit more. All right, so I have these short paces. I'm just kind of just going to do that in like various areas. Going to push them under some strands that already exist, and that will probably kind of hold them close to the soil. So yeah, we'll see. That method, like I said, it takes a little bit longer. That method's always been kind of hit or miss for me, to be honest. I still wanted to show you guys that because it's definitely just a cool little method that you can do. And yeah, you can do that with string of pearls. You can do that with string of hearts. What else? Any string of plant, and actually you can do that with a lot of other plants. You can do that with like vining plants, pretty much any vining plant that has nodes like along a stem. It's not the most straightforward sometimes, but it's fun. I always think it's fun to experiment with propagation. All right, so care going forward for your cuttings. Now, because I put the cuttings right back into the mother plant, I'm just going to care for this like I normally would. String of pearls is a succulent, so, let it basically dry out in between waterings, bright and direct light. If you were propagating cuttings in a separate pot, keep the surface damp, like a little, here, I have a little spray bottle right here. A little spray bottle such as this is, these are handy for keeping the surface of the soil moist. Now, I know that's kind of weird because if you have a succulent and it wants to basically remain dry, why would you keep the cuttings damp? And that's just because moisture is good for root development. So as your roots are developing, first couple weeks or so, keep the surface damp. And once your roots start to develop, you can start to treat your cuttings like a normal plant. And that's when you want to go to just like normal care, like letting it dry out in between waterings. But like I said, because this is the mature mother plant, I'm just going to be caring for it as usual. And if you propagated your cuttings in water, of course, you just want to make sure the water level, make sure the nodes are under the water, just as I made sure the nodes are stuck down into the soil in here. And once you start to notice roots that are about an inch or so long, that's when you can transition them into a pot with potting mix and start to care for them like a normal plant. String of pearls have such, and other string of plants have such like delicate, dainty roots. They're not going to grow like huge root systems. Like an inch or so is good. Hope you enjoyed today's propagation tutorial. Thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon. Have a great day.